Hey everybody, it's the Big MD here. I'm gonna be reading The Colors of the Rainbow, and apparently it's kind of like a sequel to Rainbow Factory. If you haven't read that already, I'll probably read that next. I don't know, I'm getting a little tired of Grimdarks. But yeah, the teaser, it's like, this is a Rainbow Factory-like story. Warning, contains torture, blood, gore, etc., etc. Yeah. And this part of a test, it's part of a test story, so apparently he maybe hasn't finished it yet, so yeah, we're gonna find out what this shit is all about. Alright, let's go. Rainbows of the, Colors of the Rainbow by Papa Frapp. Rainbows. They glow vibrant against the pale blue sky, radiating bright colors in all directions. They bring happiness to those who gaze upon them, filling them with joy. However, no pony knows exactly how rainbows are made. Well, no living pony. Those who manage the factory keep rainbow making a secret from equestrian society. After all, it's quite unorthodox. How do you make rainbows? If I told you, I'd have to kill you. And that's fine with me. Whoa. Is this like a point of view Rainbow Dash? Alright. It's simple, really, so I'll tell you. Rainbows are made from ponies. Cool, isn't it? Well, I forgot, I'm doing a Rainbow Dash voice. It's simple, really, so I'll tell you. Rainbows are made from ponies. Cool, isn't it? I smash them in, grind them up, crush, blend, and puree. The factory sounds more like a blender, now that I think about it. I understand how ridiculous this must sound to you. I mean, I work? So, this is possible? Rainbow Dash is too cool for my work. My fans say, oh my god. I just got major brain raped. Excuse me. Rainbow Dash is too cool for work, many fans say. Anyways, I'm starting to talk like Pinkie Pie. Speaking of Pinkie Pie, I've always loved her fluffy shade of bubblegum pink. I've loved her so much, I invited her to the factory. Dashy? Pinkie Pie said. Is that you? I carried my bag of surgical tools into the soundproof room where Pinkie Pie lay. Her body was vulnerable against the wall. She was cuffed at the end of all four hooves, legs, and rusted shackles. She looked so beautiful, pinned and spread against the wall. Excuse me. The only light in the room came from a dim bulb which hung from the high ceiling. It flickered every moment, on, off, on, and off. The room smelled surprisingly clean. The only smell came from Pinkie Pie's natural scent was the fresh of baked pastries. Rainbow Dash? Her voice echoed. Yeah, I said. It's me. I smiled. Pinkie Pie looked relieved. Dashy, where am I? Why am I tied up? She looked around, less frantic than before. Then she focused on the bag in my hand. Dashy, can you take off these chains? I need to get back to Sugar Cute, she said, stopped, and her mouth was gaping ajar. From the bag I had produced a butcher's knife, a foot long and a half-foot wide. This knife is like my paintbrush for the artists. It's the tool for my art. My art was made with the knife. The spectrum of colors this knife had created in its life could span the whole rainbow twice. It's so nice that my knife could finally meet you, Pinkie. The both were my best friends, and I loved them so much. Dashy, what's that for? She asked, now sweating. Okay, I'm not doing a good Pinkie Pie. I'm making her sound too happy. She's supposed to be scared. I loved her. Even still, she was so innocent. Any pony but her have already started screaming for help, but she was different. I can't stop to think about it all right now. I have a job to do. Her time was up. I have to show Pinkie Pie the masterpiece I'm going to turn her into. Looking directly into her eyes, which were now wide in fear. Dashy, please! She stammered. You're scaring me! I didn't say anything. Instead, I pulled out from my bag more tools. Pinkie Pie's eyes followed my hoof as I pulled each tool out. With each tool I pulled out, her eyes dilated. I spread out all the tools on the floor so that she could see all her fate. By now, Pinkie Pie's rosy cheeks were drained of color. Pinkie Pie realized the situation and snapped, "Dashi, don't do this, please!" I grabbed the butcher's knife. A fine knife, if I do say so myself. "Please, we can go get help!" I sharpened the knife against the walls, dragging the blade closer and closer to her. "Dashi, please! You don't have to do this!" I inspected the knife. The blade was rusted and jagged, with random teeth spread across the length. Perfect. Pinkie by now was wailing, "Twilight, Applejack, any pony, help me!" I had enough of her screaming. I took a hoof forward, standing directly in front of her face. I could smell fear and desperation. I almost tasted the fresh pies and cakes she baked every morning. It's time to do this. Make my art. My beautiful art. Pinkie Pie is my canvas. The knife is my brush. I grinned ear to ear. Then I kissed her. Oh, she was so confused. Her eyes were wild in fear, but a small glitter of hope sparkled in them. Hope. "Pinkie Pie, I always did love you the most." Oh, that's weird. This is when I swung the blade deeply into her foreleg. I felt and heard the knife rip through flesh and muscle. Blood splattered everywhere against the walls, against the floor, and against me. Pinkie Pie screamed loudly. I couldn't even imagine any pony screamed this loud. But then again, Pinkie Pie is just filled with all surprises. Her screams echoed in the room, but no pony heard her. The knife was stuck, lodged in her bone. I tried to pull it out, but there was no avail. I tried to saw the blade out, but the teeth shattered within her, and the fragments of the rusted blade lay embedded within her leg. Blood squirted out in streams, so I gave her medicine that would stop her from bleeding, from flowing too quickly. It's not fun when that moves too fast in a relationship. You have to slow down and enjoy the ride. Ah! Her voice still echoed. After several failed attempts to dislodge the knife, I decided to move on to the next tool. I looked in the tools spread across the floor. They were moist, having been soaked in a pool of Pinkie's deep wine-red blood. After a few moments of thoughtful consideration, I decided the next tool, the blowtorch. Ow. I picked it up and produced a white-hot flame at the end of the nozzle. I could see that whatever consciousness remained in Pinkie's eyes was forcing her to move with what was in my hoof. Now that cutie mark? I've always loved her cutie mark. The blue balloons did match her eyes so well. I took the blowtorch and began to trace over her cutie mark. Pinkie Pie once again started to scream in agony. "Ah!" She screamed. Well, that was terrible. I'm not gonna do screaming anymore. Anyway, she screamed while crying. The tears rolled down her face and streamed down her side. The tears immediately evaporated from the heat of the torch. Her tears had no effect. I finished tracing around her cutie mark and focused on the center. I could slowly start to see blue and gold marks start to fade away into brown. The brown flesh burnt into char. I inspected the spot where the cutie mark once had been, past the black burnt skin. It was clearly bone, roasted yellow. One bone had imploded from the heat. Marrow spilled out from the, like over-pie strawberry jelly. Pinkie Pie could only whimper and wait for death to take pity, and her suffering soon. Her nerves were cooked to perfection. Losing all our senses, I couldn't resist the smell of warm, fresh-cooked pie. That's gross. I placed my mouth on her hot flesh and used my tongue to sample her flavor. It was fantastic. I couldn't control my mouth. I pushed deeper and greedily eating it. A gaping hole was there, reminded me of her flank. That's nasty. That's, well, no worse than cupcakes. Anyway, drink of water. Excuse me. I lifted the torch again, preparing to work on the second cutie mark, but I heard a voice deep within the very core of my soul. This was the first time I had ever heard this deep voice. It told me to stop this now. No more blowtorch. I didn't understand, but my body wouldn't let me continue with the blowtorch. I looked into Pinkie's eyes. I just couldn't. It told me not to use the blowtorch. Instead, it told me to move on to more fun toys. Pinkie loved fun. Wait, oh crap, I got lost. I looked again at the tool spread across the floor. Which looks the most fun? Which looks the most fun? I thought about, and then came to a perfect conclusion. Pinkie Pie loves sweets and games. Why not play a game of piñata? I grabbed a poorly crafted wooden bat with several rusted nails crudely hammered in the sides, aiding onto the lethality of the splinters already embedded in the wood. "Hey, Pinkie!" I said. She didn't answer. "Hey!" I said with more force. She didn't answer. I tapped her on the face. She didn't answer. In frustration, I smacked her across the face with my hoof. I heard a crack, then a coughing as she woke up from her unconsciousness. "Pinkie!" I said, smiling. I thought you were gonna play a game with me." I held up the bat for her to see. Her eyes grew wide once again. "You might know. It's called Pinata." I smiled because her ears perked up. "And you are the Pinata." Pinkie Pie spoke her last words. "Please, Rainbow, don't." I lifted the bat with both arms. The light flickered violently like a seizure. I smiled. My masterpiece looked so beautiful. She was almost complete. Only a few more strokes. I swung the bat across Pinkie's side, creating 5 gashes that ran through her body. Skin, muscle, bones. They were no match for the sheer brutality of this tool. The nails ripped through her without any resistance. Her organs became nothing more than shredded blobs of tissue, like sticky chunks of cranberry jelly. I swung again, and again, and again! Each swing splattered blood further across the walls. By the 7th swing, her lower body had completely severed and lay in a pile under her, alongside her dismembered legs. I dropped the bat and took a few steps to see the work I had done. Blood streaked the wall in all directions. Organ fragments littered the ground like smashed cherries. The blow on the forehead began with thick puddle, black and smell of death. Her candy littered the floor. Oh, that's gross. Splattered her upper torso, which was still chained against the wall. White nerves hanging in wisps from the end of her torn spine, like the angel's hair. It was good. It was all so beautiful. I knew she felt every swing. I saw her heart still beating, until I forcefully removed it from her body with my bare hooves. I took the heart between my hooves and with one movement smashed it. The blood splattered the room as if a grenade had detonated. Fragments of Pinkie's corpse were scattered and cut into pieces beyond any identification of cruel and unusual mutilation. I remember that look in her eyes right before extracting her heart. It was not of hatred. No, she never hated. She couldn't hate any pony. It was happiness. It was over. There was no more pain. Well, that was What Rainbows Are Made Of by Papa Frapp. That was definitely interesting. I didn't do so good on the voices. I gotta start getting more into acting voices. But yeah, that was definitely interesting. So yeah, tell me what you think about it. I'm gonna stop doing some Grimdarks for a while. I'm gonna start maybe doing some shipping or Happy Tales, but no more Grimdarks. They're starting to get to my brain. My brain can't take much. So yeah, that was What Rainbows Are Made Of. Goodbye.